Tempo FM.
And you are listening to Rebecca doing something a little bit different, where today it is the anniversary of what is considered the birth of television by John Logie Baird, who gave the first public demonstration of a TV system in London way back in 1926. It wouldn't be until 1936 that the BBC would start broadcasting. But what was the very first thing that was broadcast? Well, I can tell you what was effectively first broadcast as a drama back in 1930. It was still in the experimental stages, but John Logie Baird installed a television at 10 Downing Street in London. Obviously, that's where the Prime Minister used to reside. I think he's now at 11 Downing Street. They keep switching. I think one's slightly larger than the other. Anyway, on July 14th, Prime Minister at the time, Ramsay MacDonald, and his family used this new television to watch the first ever television drama, which was called The Man with the Flower in His Mouth. Yes, an interesting one, that, isn't it? But it was originally, it's a 1922 play by the Italian playwright Luigi Pirandello. It is particularly noteworthy for becoming the first piece broadcast on television in Britain, which is always quite exciting, isn't it? I mean, I wonder if back then it was only nice, positive things that were on television. I'm sure they would also broadcast the news. It wasn't just dramas, but I'm sure dramas were also particularly sunny. And of course, I can't be doing a show about TV and not play Aha's The Sun Always Shines on TV, as I'm sure it kind of usually does. And that was The Sun Always Shines on TV, particularly for Aha, or however you want to pronounce their name. So, you are here with Rebecca doing something a little bit different. It is 9 minutes past 12. You've got me for another 51 minutes, or more like 50 minutes and 35 seconds from now. I'm looking at the big clock on the wall. Later on today, feel free to come back and tune in from 3 p.m. for the sensational 70s show with Rob Allen. Following on from him from 5 till 7 p.m. is Drive Time with Stuart Robinson, probably keeping you nice and updated on what's happening on the roads as you make your way home. And then from 7 p.m. it's the Phoebe and Brooke show. And then later on into the evening, from 8 p.m. till 10, it's Jazz on Tempo with John Marley. So lots of lovely things to tune in to listen to here at Tempo FM. And now I've been talking today, which is a little ironic, about television. I know I'm on the radio and you can only see my voice, and one might say any radio presenters have a face for the radio. That tends to suggest that they are ugly, which isn't really a nice phrase. But it did. But when television was introduced, I'm pretty sure it was radio stars who were the first to be on television, because of course they were already used to, for example, presenting the news. So of course they then got jobs on the television as well. So moving on from 1926 was the effective birth of television, and then in 1936, that's when the British Broadcasting Corporation started to broadcast television. It started off in black and white, of course, with synchronized sound to go with it. It was very tiny screens, where back then you would have to huddle around the television. In fact, the television box, where you could probably fit a child inside it. It was that big, and then have a little screen at the front. But when did they start broadcasting in colour? Well, I can tell you. BBC Two broadcast its first colour pictures from Wimbledon in 1967. So it would take a whole 30 years before we would get colour. And they didn't even put it on the first the first television channel. No, they put it on BBC Two. instead of BBC One. But BBC One would follow fairly soon afterwards, 6 months later, with broadcasting its colours to the nation instead of black and white. And I think that's a very fitting point to throw in a song by Cyndi Lauper called True Colours, because finally everyone could see what the actual colours of these places were. And I've got an interesting colour-related fact for you just after this. Cyndi Lauper and True Colours.
The Tempo FM What's On Guide.
Yes, let's have a look-see at what's happening. So, tomorrow, Tuesday 28th of January, the UK Torino presents with the Village Society and Spofforth WI Between You and Me, a night of Ian McMillan and Luke Carver-Goss, with words, songs and breathtaking comedy. That's tomorrow evening. Doors open at 7 p.m. for a 7:30 start. Bar available plus snacks and ice creams. Tickets are £13 from Londis and Harebell. For more information, you can visit our website www.tempofm.co.uk. Click on the local events tab, scroll down a little bit and it is there. Also happening this week, Wednesday 29th of January, is Boston Spa Gardening Club, where Sue Wood from Harrogate Parks Department will give a talk, The Valley Gardens of Harrogate, where she'll discuss the evolution of the gardens in the late 19th century through to recent projects, including the restoration of the Japanese garden. That's at the Deepdale Community Centre on Wednesday. This Wednesday, doors open at 7 to start at 7:30. There's refreshments and a raffle. New members are always welcome. And for more information, you can also visit our website again, Tempo FM website, or you can find the Boston Spa Gardening Club Facebook page for more information about that too. Jumping on a little bit to Thursday. Wow, we're really right at the end of January. Thursday, 30th of January at Askham Bryan College, another gardening club. This one is titled Unnatural Gardening. So come listen to retired plant scientist Peter Williams. Meeting starts at 7:30 p.m. So lots of things happening this week, all starting at 7:30. Of course, all are welcome to this one as well. Members are free, visitors are £5. And the Askham Bryan College Gardening Club is at the Conference Centre in the Askham Bryan College, and that's near York. And then this Saturday, I've got time to squeeze in one more. Weatherby Musical Theatre Group presents a coffee morning. On Saturday, the 1st of February... Blimey, we're almost at February. Of course we are. It's the end of January. Saturday 1st of February at Weatherby Town Hall, 9am till 1pm, coffee and bacon butties. Tickets on sale here for our next show, Whistle Down the Wind. And more information on that you can find out at the Coffee Morning, or you can check out the local events tab on the website to see what's going on for a little bit more information there. But it all looking quite good. Lots of things to get out and about to do.
Good times, great songs. This is Tempo FM.
It is indeed Tempo FM. You are listening to Rebecca doing something a little bit different. It is 20 minutes past 12. I think I need to do a weather update soon, but I will do that after the next break. So today's theme has been the birth of television. We've been working through the years, working through time, and I've just discovered when, I've just told you, when colour television first started being broadcast. Now, I can actually tell you how much the first colour sets were sold for. They were a 19-inch Murphy, and they cost 285 guineas, which for allowing for, I don't know how much that is in today's pennies, but allowing for inflation, the set cost £5,000, which I think even in today's money, well, definitely in today's money, that is a lot of money. Bearing in mind, of course, mass production wouldn't have been quite as common as it is nowadays. So £5,000. But if you wanted legs for your television, that cost extra. that cost you a little bit extra. Unfortunately, you don't get nothing. You don't get money for nothing, and you don't get nothing for money. Wait, no, you do. You do get nothing for money. No, I don't know. I'm talking rubbish. Anyway, I'm going to play you into Dire Straits next with Money for Nothing. But I first wanted to just sort of say what else is coming up in this show today. So after this, I'm going to be launching into some theme songs, and the very first one I'm going to play is by the Addams Family. Now, the Addams Family, there was something interesting I wanted to tell you. When they first started being broadcast, they were a black and white television show. Of course, high contrast images is essential for black and white television shows. But did you know that the set, like the main living room for the Addams Family, was actually a lovely shade of pink? Yeah, but of course you wouldn't know that if it was black and white. So the cast themselves got to enjoy a lovely shade of pink, whereas everyone else got to see just shades of grey and black and white. Now, is this song playing? Yes, here we go. Here's Dire Straits, Money for Nothing. I bet that made you think a little bit differently about the Addams Family, learning that their living room was pink. So, I've got a little quiz for you guys now. We're on to the theme tunes now. All of these theme tunes, the shows were either based in a single decade or they began in that particular decade. But can you guess which one it was? Do you need a bit more of a clue as to what decade I'm referring to? Well, here is Henry Mancini with the theme from The Magnificent Seven. Maybe this will give you a bit of a hint as to which decade I'm referring to. Have you managed to guess the theme yet? Well, not the theme, the decade. Which decade am I referring to? Well, there are more songs from this decade to come right after the next ad break.
Weather.
Yes, let's keep you up to date with what's happening with the weather. So, it will be a largely dry day today with sunny spells, but despite this, there is a risk of isolated showers. In fact, looking out the Tempo FM window, I can see clouds are gathering. These isolated showers could turn wintry on hills. It's rather breezy and cold outside, despite the sunshine. Maximum temperatures are 7 degrees Celsius. Tonight, after a dry evening for most, clouds will thicken overnight. A showery rain spreads eastwards. Some of the rain could be heavy, possibly wintry again on the hills. Another cold and breezy night with a minimum temperature of 1 degree Celsius. Tomorrow, it's staying cold and windy, sunny spells and showers through the morning, possibly wintry on the hills again. So very much like today, which is sort of good to know. So you know what works for you today, you know what works for you tomorrow. Perfect. Let's get on with our theme for today.
Making your workday go faster. This is Tempo FM.
Now, I've been asking you to guess the decade that all of these theme tunes are from. Either the show began in that decade or only lasted during that decade. There's so many that actually started. It's insane. So I'm going to keep playing some more for you now, kicking off with one called Drum Majorette. And it's actually the original theme tune for Match of the Day. Need some more time to guess? Do you? No, I've never actually heard that version of the Match of the Day song. I think we're all a bit more familiar with the da 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 one. I've never heard that one before. That was quite grand. Right. Well, speaking of grand, this next one was for the original Grandstand theme. Do you still need more of a hint? I'm going to give you one more. So, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, can you tell me what decade you are in, please? I will tell you, Scooby-Doo was in the 1960s. All of these shows began way back in the 1960s. I can't believe it. There's just so many. But, interesting bit of information for you here. The very first TV show theme song that hit, that got into the charts was actually back in 1954. So it was back in the 1950s. And it was the song, The Ballad of Davy Davy Crockett by Bill Hayes. That was the very first one to be released as a single and to get into the charts. Meanwhile, there are others which have come out. They've been remixed, they've been rehashed, they've been mashed even. Oh no, I'll play the theme for MASH after this one. This is BC52's Meet the Flintstones, also from the 60s. And that was Meet the Flintstones, another show that started way back in 1960 when television was just about 30 years old. Well, the birth of television was way back in 1926, so I suppose it was actually 40 years old. But to be broadcast across the nation, it took a little bit more time. Obviously, lots of work had to go into it. They had to hijack radio signals. They had to make it stronger. They had to change things around. And obviously they had to get televisions in lots of households across the country. In fact, there were many people who couldn't afford them, and those that did decide to share their sets with others, so where everyone be gathered around. It was the same with radio. It was the same thing. It was a great big sort of happy gathering with lots of people all together. So I mentioned this one just a moment ago. Here's the theme from MASH, another show that started in the 1960s. And that was the theme from MASH. Was that a particularly sad show? I never saw it myself, but it also started in the 1960s, as well as this song right here.
Tempo FM Travel.
Yes, let's get a quick update on what's happening out on the roads in and around Wetherby and further afield. So all looking nice and clear. The A1M looking excellent, north and south for quite a ways, no issues there. One road closure in Tadcaster, just off the A659. That's also the same road that goes through Boston Spa. However, it is in Tadcaster, and be aware there may be additional cars parked on the road around there, sort of near the centre. If you're going into Knaresborough on the A59, that's if you come off the A1M junction, junction 47, and you're going into Knaresborough, there is some roadworks right next to the Toyota dealership, right next to the Toyota dealership on the roundabout. Little stop-start going into there. Looking good going into Harrogate. All good in York. There's just no issues. It's all pretty smooth out there, which is right grand. Well, for the last almost 2 hours, it is 6 minutes to 1. You have been listening to Rebecca doing something a little bit different. Today I've been discussing the birth of television in 1926 and a number of historical moments since then. And of course, with television, we've had theme tunes. So we've had radio dramas. In fact, the very first thing broadcast into the sent to the number 10 Downing Street, no, I think it's number 11 Downing Street, way back when, was a drama called The Man with a Flower in His Mouth. And so obviously dramas have been a big part of television. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got the theme tunes for shows such as Emmerdale, EastEnders, Hollyoaks and all that sort of thing, because that would have been quite nice and dramatic to have. But I do have one from the 1970s. This one is the A-Team theme. And it's actually originally by Mike Post. And that was the A-Team theme, originally done by Mike Post, and that was from way back in 1980s? 1980s. Anyway, so many changes have happened with TV. I did actually want to ask my dad in today, but he decided he wasn't interested, because you see, he used to own a radio and television repair shop in Boston Spa. If anyone was familiar with E.V. Webb and Son, that was my dad. Well, the and son bit was my dad. He started it off with my grandfather, and they went for a good many years. I think it was until 2001 was it that they stopped? I can't remember. But obviously since then, TVs have got bigger, better, faster. They don't, if they have a fault in them, they need repairing elsewhere. But thankfully, the themes and the music that goes with all the shows are still there. So I've almost finished up. I have less than a minute to go, and I have one thing I want to try and do. You've been listening to Rebecca with something a little bit different. I hope you've enjoyed this unusual week this week, and I will see you next week. Of course, a big favourite was Countdown. But would you ever get the conundrum at the end? There have been amazing people on Countdown in the past. Don't forget to tune in later from 3 p.m. with the Sensational 70s Show with Rob Allen. Am I going to get the spot on? Oh, I'm not. Oh, I got it slightly off. Oh well, see you next week.
On air at 107.